Problem 1 says that I need to give the parent function for each of the following functions, then describe the changes we would need to make to the parent function to get to the graph of the function, and we just need to give the asymptote of the function. Alright, so looking back, my parent function is always y equals b to the x. Well, in this case, my b is sitting right there, which is 3 in this case, to the x. Cool beans. Alright, the only transformation that I see that I have other than that parent function is this negative 1/3 sitting out here. So now at this point I have to identify, okay, well that's a for sure. A is actually going to be less than 1, so in this case it is going to be a shrink vertically. Alright, so what is that shrink factor? Well, it's going to be a vertical shrink of 1/3. Alright, but Miss Schuessler, guess what? We also have this particular sign right here. What the heck? I've got a negative. Well, that negative does something all on its own as well. Just because I only see one number doesn't mean that I only have one necessary transformation. So that negative is always going to do something else. Specifically, it is going to flip over one of my axes. Since this is going to affect my y values, that actually means that I will be flipping over the x-axis. AKA, that is going to reflect over the x-axis. The only other thing that I need to do is I need to say what my asymptote was. Well, all I gotta do is remember, okay, well, my asymptote is normally at y equals 0, meaning that it would go this way on the x-axis base. And since I don't have k being added out here, that means that my asymptote is going to stay put. It's not going to shift up or down any with the graph. So it's still going to be at y equals 0. On B, same deal. I need to name the parent function, the transformations, and the asymptote. So parent function again is just y equals b to the x. Well, the only thing that I see attached to that x is that 2. So my parent function should be y equals 2 to the x. That's it. Even though there's an x minus 1 as the exponent, my parent function is still just y equals 2 to the x. Because remember that minus 1 is going to be part of our h here in a second. Alright, speaking of h, I need to list out my transformations. Okay, so my transformations should be relatively nice. I see that I've got 3 of them this time because I see this time, as I've mentioned, I've got an h, I've got a k, and I've actually got an a in this particular case. So, does order of transformations matter? Yes, it does. So, if you had me for Algebra 2 last year, I talked about transformation orders. We always start with the inside, which in exponential function is going to be inside the exponent. We always do our shifts left and right first. So in this case, I would be shifting to the shift right 1. Alright, so I've got my inside taken care of. That's cool. Now I move to the outside, and I'm going to go with that multiplication next. Which that multiplication on the outside is going to be that 3. That 3 is either going to be my stretch or my shrink factor. Since a is larger than 1 in this case, that actually is going to be a vertical stretch. Of 3. AKA, when you get to your graphs, multiply your y values by 3. Alright, And then my final transformation should be that 4 on the end, which is that shift again. But this time that shift is going to go either up or down. Since that is positive on the end, we are going to go up. If you're sitting here thinking, well, why did I shift right 1 and then go up 4? Remember that our parent function, well, our initial function, not even necessarily our parent function, but our general equation had an x minus h, which means that for h, I would have had to plug in a positive number to keep that sign subtraction. And I went up 4 because, well, k stayed positive, which means that I would have gone in the positive direction. Other than that, we just start and end with shifts. I call it a shift sandwich. Other people call it a stretch sandwich because, well, you don't call a peanut butter and jelly sandwich a bread sandwich because those are on the outside, but, you know, to each their own. That's just how I remember that I start and end with shifts every time. That way we all get the same graphs either way. Alright, the last thing that I do need, though, is it did ask me for my asymptote. So, most time, my asymptote is at y equals 0. However, in this particular case, I shifted right 1, which isn't going to affect an asymptote going that way. I did vertically stretch that by 3. Well, 0 times 3 is still, 3. And then finally, we shifted it up 4, which would be at 4. So now my asymptote is actually just going to be at y equals 4. Ta-da! Alright. Other than that, I hope to see you in my next video.